Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I hope you're well. It's a bit chilly. I'm just going to say very quickly and then I'm going to try and ignore it. Excuse the state of my face today. A couple of days ago I thought this was all finally going and I got really excited. Anyway, it seems to have come back with a vengeance and the whole of this side of my face today is killing me. So, yeah. But I'm hopefully speaking to the doctor again tomorrow. So, yeah, excuse how this looks. If I'm not smiley today, it's because this all hurts. But I'm smiling inside because... Which way up? Yay! Finally sorted out my seeds. This is a whole year's worth of food. Isn't that amazing? The potential of seeds never fails to amaze me. I should just say, actually, no, it's not. I've got my beans, because they're so bulky, in jam jars up on the shelf. Behind you, I've taken one down because I wanted to remember. This is some of the Madeira Maroon that I tried for the first time last year. It's a climbing shelling bean that Paul gave me some seeds for. They did really well for me. They're beautiful as they're growing. It's a beautiful bean once harvested. And I was chatting to my mum saying, would she like to try anything new this year? She grows many runners to eat the whole pod, but I'm going to send her just a little handful of these. Maybe, well, she says just send me 2. I'm not going to send you 2 seeds, Mum. I'll send her 5. So that's my little reminder. But yes, the seed sort finally done. So having done the plan, it's not fleshed out in any way. Like as I was mentioning, that I haven't written the types of beans in and how many I'll sow, and in terms of things like, you know, just writing squash or tomatoes, I haven't written varieties on the plan yet. I wanted to have a seed sort to see where I'm at right now, because obviously I've got a seed left over from last year, plus I've got my own saved seed from last year, plus I've been gifted some seed and some seed swaps. So once I've gone through all of this, I can then think, right, what have I got space for? What do I want to prioritise? What don't I have at all? What do I need to order? So I've already ordered my seed potatoes and my onion sets for the year. As for seeds, I've written down a little list, and it's a case of maybe, maybe not, maybe. I'll see how I feel. See how the pennies go too. So all I've done, there's a few loose on the top because, I'll try and rattle through these quite quickly. Let me see now. Oh, and something else I've tried to remember to do this year and I haven't done in the past. So apologies, one of my big pumpkins is in the way. Apologies if I've sown something and I've not remembered who they're from, but this year I have written names on packets so I can remember who they're from. Oh, what is wrong with me today? Butterfingers. Just loose in the top of the tin are things for me to remember to sow really pretty soon, as in now. So having said the other day, hold, there's nothing to sow until March, April or so. I will do the peppers in February, but generally the vast majority of my seeds won't even see the light of day until at least April. However, I am going to be sowing my sweet peas. That's my saved ones from last year. And then garden peas. So Christina kindly sent me some Champion of England, and they came originally from Organic Gardening. So this is her saved seeds. So they started out organic, they've been gardened organically and saved. Great. But also, if you were watching this time last year, you may remember I started some garden peas off called Rosa Crona. The girls next door had given them to me, and it was because in 2020, when theirs really got going, there was a day I came to the garden and I absolutely was stopped in my tracks by the sight of them. They'd grown to about 1 metre tall, and it's on the far side of their garden from my garden. It's the side of the garden of theirs that I don't really sort of see, but oh boy, I saw them, because they had the most beautiful, quite strong pink flowers. I thought it was probably a bit of a decorative rather than edible. Tried a few though, and they were gorgeous. So they saved seed for me. I started some last year and they were doing great for me. These and the sweet peas and the champion of England will be started in the cold frame. More of that when we come to do it in the next few days. But of course then, because I wasn't in the garden at all during March, and we had, the cold frame was mostly open, but where these were, they were underneath a pane of glass, so they weren't getting any rain, and they were getting quite a bit of warmth, not heat as such, but obviously the sun through the glass, they dried out completely and keeled over, and it's such a shame because they were doing really well, but I'd kept a few back. So Rosa Corona, it's a garden, it's an eating pea, but a really, really pretty bloom. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the peas this year, because in previous years I've had that a big pot with the obelisk in for the sweet peas. Of course, I've now requisitioned that pot for my second blueberry bush, but I think these are all so pretty, I might just pop them around little wigwams, just dot them all over the garden. That'll be nice. And the other thing that's loose in the top, and then I'm going to talk about how I sort my sowing schedule, that sort of thing. I completely forgot about these. Some onion seed. Now I think they were with some other seeds in a card. It was a sort of pull out, so this was a little pull out tab. Based on that, I think these must have been from Renee. Were they you, Renee? It's got your kind of style on it. If it's not Renee, if it's you and not Renee, please let me know so I can write names on. I've never grown onion from seed before. It's just been one of those things of the timing. I'm usually getting on with other things at this time of year. I take the winter to do other stuff than the garden, because the garden takes up so much time in the rest of the year. So I've never bothered. But I'm going to have a go this year. You know, why not? And I will show you, I've got a module tray specifically in mind for these, which I'll show you when we come to do them. I think one of the other things in the past, I've also thought, oh no, it's more compost. But actually, I've got a bit of leftover compost from last year. Maybe only 3 litres, 4 or 5 litres or so. That's probably enough to do the onions, the peas and the sweet peas. So yeah, I'm going to give them a go. Renee, I think, thank you. Right, as for the rest of the tin, how it looks at the moment. Very simply what I did, and I actually did this at home the other day, spread out on my table, I gathered together all my seeds into different families. So it says on here bush beans and climbers. The majority are up there, but I did have, there's a random few in here, including the coco noir, which is a bush bean that I think is going to be similar to coco de Paimpol that Jim sent. There's some saved, oh look, that's the last couple of Madeira Maroon from Paul. When I'm sowing, I generally, apart from parsnips, which don't tend to last very well, the seed that is, whatever I'm sowing, I tend to almost always hold back, 10 seeds or so, just in case I have a complete fail one year. At least I've still got that seed that I've been building up over the years. It's been acclimatizing to my garden. So yeah, those Madeira Maroon. So as I said, I organise them roughly by family. Some things don't necessarily fit into the sort of odds and ends, but the other thing I do is I organise it by the bed that I sow them in. So bed 1, bed 2, bed 3, bed 4. And the way I sow each bed, because of my rotation as well, they tend to be a sort of family of things in one bed anyway. So in a bed, for instance, the vining bed, so there'll be squash, tomatoes, cucumber and peppers in that bed. So they get a packet. So this is a packet. This has got celery, fennel, carrots, onions leeks and parsnips in. Now, again, all sorts of saved seed. I won't necessarily go through them all. The one thing I have written on my list to buy is carrot seed, because I did 2 sowings last year. I used up all my carrot seed and got nothing. I don't know why the last 2 years have been so dreadful, but never mind. But I've got leftover from last year. Because I bought 2 packets. Oh, now, what was the thing I bought that I wanted to mention? I bought in bulk. Oh, I'll tell you that in a second. So some Florence fennel, for example. And then this is new parsnip seed for this year. This is the parsnip called Guernsey Half Long. There's a lovely story behind these. These have been given to me by Paul. He was given 2 packets, so he shared a packet with me. These have been given to him by someone on the island of Guernsey as a result of Paul's. Paul is now doing a monthly article for, I can't remember what the name of the paper is, like the Guernsey Gazette or the Guernsey Herald, but he's doing a monthly piece for that. And as a response to it, he's been sent these seeds. I won't say too much more on the story because it's Paul's story to tell. If I remember, I will try to put a link either underneath this video or might do one of those cardy things. I don't know if I can do it as a card, but I'll send a link so you can read Paul's article. He's done 2 so far, and they're lovely, and it's sort of memories of gardening in Guernsey and how that has influenced how he gardens today in London. Really lovely. So that's some that's some odds and sods. Then, and this is one I want to tell you about then. This is a whole packet for squash. Again, they tend to be a slightly more bulky seed. And I've got, I've really buttery fingered today. I've got a number of different ones from Christina. Thank you so much. It feels like sort of 4 or 5 seeds in each packet. Great. And I've got leftover. I've got some of the Futsu Black. They're storing really well, because it's my first time of trying them was last year. So yeah, they're storing great. And then I've got a couple left over of sweet dumpling. These aren't storing so well. With a couple I've noticed, it's just starting to get a bit of a bloom around the stalk, so quick, use them up. It's always the way when you're trying when you try something new and it's for storing. So for me, that's basically storing them without freezing or refrigeration or anything like that. For me, that's squash and onions and potatoes. If it's a new one to you, do keep checking on your store produce. I mean, I tend to check anyway. And obviously any of that you've got at home, it's easier to check because it's at home, it's around you. But yeah, keep a really close eye on it if it's a new thing and you just don't know quite how long it's going to store. My bog standard Wolf and Butternuts store forever. So on the point of the Wolf and Butternuts, I was checking online. Which one is it? Seed Cooperative. So a packet of 10 seeds costs, I can't remember exactly, let's say it's £3. And I wanted to get 2 packets. So that'll be 20 seeds, because ideally I'd like about 12 to 15 plants. But then I looked again, and I looked, if I buy 50 seeds, so 2 packets would have been about £6. 50 seeds is £7.50. So that's like 5 £3 packets will be £15, £7.50. I've done it with the butternut squash because the seeds will remain viable for ages. So hopefully I'm going to do that investment. That's an investment for the next sort of 3 years or so. Because having had a look through all my seeds, I realise, there's very little I need to buy. I've already got my little fund, my seed fund there, so I could sort of say, right, I'm not going to buy anything, save that money, carry it over to next year. But then next year I probably will need quite a few more seeds because a lot of this will get used up. So this year, buy something in bulk that will last. Yeah, that's the seed cooperative. So the 3 seed companies I use regularly, my main one over the years has been the seed cooperative. I've just gone online, key in seed cooperative, you'll see it in the UK. I don't know if they ship around the world, sorry, I didn't look into that. And then 2 slightly more recent ones for me, but I really like, again, because they're completely organic, Vital Seeds and Tamar Organics. Okay, so that's the squash, and then I have a packet that's for tomatoes, cucumbers and peppers, and this is like the dullest batch to look at because it's all saved seed, all my own saved seed, and 1 packet, red peppers, I don't remember that one, that was a gift, didn't write the name on, sorry. And then finally a packet that's all salads. So having sort of got them sorted out into their families, I can then, and the not cucumbers, the courgette from Jim. Yay, that's another one that I don't have to get. Oh, I should just say as well with the brassicas, I had a load sent, thank you. Hang on, let's just fish out packets. Christina sent some, then Brian over in the States sent a few various ones when it looked like I was going to lose all my brassicas again. Do you remember I pricked them out last year? They'd been smithereened by the slugs, and I pricked out anything that was even slightly viable, and they came good, thank goodness. But Brian had sent those in case none of those came good, so they're great. I've got them for this year. And then I've got some purple sprouting broccoli that Paul had ordered, but he's actually given to me because he's realised that by the time these come to fruition, he'll have left his garden because they're moving out of London. And he's also given me some dazzling blue kale. And I'm chuffed with this because it's one of I think it was new to him last year. And it's somewhere between a sort of a cabbage and a Cavallo Nero. So my Cavallo Nero kale, I love. It's a cut and come again. It's the one with the very slim spear-like leaves, doesn't take up too much space. The dazzling blue is like that, but the leaves are broader. So for every leaf, it's like you're getting twice as much as Cavallo. I'm still going to do Cavallo. But yeah, I'm chuffed with those. And of course, where have I put his Portuguese cabbage seeds? I can't remember. No matter. I'll find them. So yeah, I've sorted them into their sort of family groups. I've sat with my plan, and I've literally gone 1 bed at a time. So I've got those 20 mini beds. I'm sort of hoping that this might be sort of hints, tips and useful for you all too. So I can sit with my plan, going 1 bed at a time. What do I want to grow in that bed? Have I got the seeds for it? Yes, tick, or no. Ooh, start making a little list. If that list is getting too massive, I can always say to myself, right, well that's going to be too much seed to buy this year. What could I do without? What could I do more of that I've already got the seeds of if it's within the same family? So, for instance, if my seed list was getting long and expensive and I had 4 different tomatoes on that list, I might go back to my saved tomato seeds and think, look, I've got enough Gardener's Delight, I've got enough Os de Bern, that will do me this year. The following year I can get some other different varieties, so take those 4 off my shopping list, as it were. That's kind of it. Simple, isn't it? Simple to get organised with your seeds. The big thing that sort of I think folk get in a bit of a tizzy with each year, and I'll be honest, sometimes I do too, is the sowing times. So what I will do next, I will draw up, and it's so, I mean, it's nothing fancy. Listen, Paul does an Excel spreadsheet. It's amazing. It's brilliant, and that's great for him. that would drive me insane because it's at the computer. I just have a scrap of paper on my pin board in the kitchen in 2 columns. One is for indoor sowings and one is for outdoor sowings. Simple as that. So again, with my plan, because in terms of all the different varieties, if I'm doing 10 different varieties of beans, I'm not going to write down the sowing date for all 10 varieties because they'll all be sown at the same time, pretty much. Likewise, tomatoes or squash, whatever it is. So it's going to be very simply, I'll have brassicas, squash, tomatoes, beans. You get the idea. If it's an indoor sowing, I will use notes from previous years because, of course, don't forget, so many of my seed packets, there's no sowing instructions on them because it's saved seed, either my saved seed or saved seed from someone else that they've gifted to me. So there's no sowing instructions, and that's fine because, like I was saying the other day, I've been doing it long enough to have, you know, a rough idea. And I think also there's an instinctive thing too, you know, as we get into the end of March, things start to warm up a bit. That sense of it's time, it's time to go. It's time to get going. But yeah, I will just do a very simple list. 2 columns, indoors, outdoors, and then down the side of it, where are you reading this from? Down the side, it'll say February, March, April, May, June. Maybe not June. February, indoors, it'll say peppers. March, indoors, there won't be anything. Remember, I learned from last year, I don't need to start things in March. April, indoors, it'll probably say tomatoes. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head what else. May, tomatoes and celery. Celery does tend to take a bit of a longer time. And then we get into the very beginning of May or end of April, indoors, squash. I've forgotten what I sow. You see, that's the thing, isn't it? Doing it just off the top of one's head is quite difficult. But if you've got your little plan in front of you, and of course my plan is in my very skimpy notebook. I say skimpy as in I make skimpy notes. And you just literally flick back to last year and the year before, maybe even the year before that, take a 2-3 year average. When did I sow? I can see in my notes when I sowed last year, I can see when I planted them in the garden, when they germinated even, so I can think, yeah, that's about the right time, or, ooh, I went a bit too soon with that one, or, ooh, that was a bit late. I didn't have any that were too late. Occasionally I've thought things are too soon. So yeah, sit with your plan, sit with all your seeds. That's a kind of visual reminder too. Just make as detailed or as simple a note as suits you, but just to give you that sort of visual reminder on a list of when to start sowing. Because also it's that thing, isn't it, of if I'm going to start the majority of my sowings in April, both indoors at home or down here at the garden, but starting things in pots rather than direct, it'll also give me that cue to start thinking about buying compost, especially if it's for having in the garden, because then I can think to myself, right, by the beginning of April I need 4 bags of compost at the garden. That means that throughout March, on one of my visits here per week, I need to be arriving with a bag of compost. So I'm not trying to do all the compost in one day at the last minute, because that would be too heavy. Oh, plan. Isn't it great? Isn't it wonderful to be at this stage? What I haven't talked about at all today is flowers and herbs. I love them. I love having them around the garden. However, they're always a slight secondary thought for me. Especially the herbs. You know, the herb bed has got a few nice things in. A lot of my flowers will self-seed anyway, that I have from, year to year. They will self-seed. And I do want to have flowers around the place because of attracting pollinators, etc. But for now, my focus is always going to be and has to be my food production. Once I've got my head around all of that, then I can think about the flowers and the herbs too. Because I was just remembering, because again, I didn't write a name on the packet, so I'm kicking myself. But I was sent some bergamot. So if you remember, I bought a little bergamot plant 3 years ago now. It's finally getting established. This says sow by 2021. I'll give it a go anyway, might as well. I think Jecker's herbs are generally quite good. So yeah, lots to be getting on with, lots to be thinking about. But most of it is that thing of just having quiet time to sit down, get organised, write your lists, and then it's kind of done. And then all you need to do is wait for spring. Is it nearly spring yet? Is it nearly? Is it? Nowhere near. It's so chilly still. But I can get on with some sewing in the next couple of days in terms of the all the kind of peas and the onions. My first ever go at seed onions from seed. So I need to get some compost. No, I don't. I've got enough, haven't I? I think I've got enough. I do need to have a sort out in this shed. It's kind of cluttered. It's a bit Marie Celeste. So I shall do that. I'll do that off camera though. I think for now though, I'm going to say thank you for hanging out with me in the shed today as I go through my seeds. Happy seed sorting to you too. I never panic about buying seeds. I don't ever do that thing of like, oh, I've got to do it. It was a bit tricky in 2020, of course, because as the pandemic hit everybody, suddenly everyone was like in that kind of like, right, we've got to shut everything down, nothing's happening. So it was a little bit tricky that year, but this year it shouldn't be an issue. So you've got plenty of time to make your seed purchases, I would say. The only thing I would suggest getting a rig along with now, if you haven't already and you want to do them, is peppers, because they do need quite a long season. And I'll be starting mine in the middle of February, so in about 4 weeks or so. So if you haven't got any peppers, maybe think about that. But the rest, yeah, no hurry. All right, my lovelies, I'm going to go and just stand in the garden and enjoy the quiet for a little while. Just breathe deeply for a while. I will see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Happy seed sorting. Happy list making. Happy seed shopping list making. Once you've made the list, though, go back over it and be realistic. If you've gone mad with your seed list, just maybe try and halve it. Be realistic about how much space you've got. All right, lovelies, that's it for today. Cheerio.